It's, good morning, everyone. Can you see my screen? I just have to ask this. And can you hear me all right?
We can.
Great. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of Peer Researchers Workshop. We had a really good day yesterday, 15 presentations and 3 committee overviews. I was thinking about it. It's just like Olympics. Once the games start, the athletes take the spotlight. We had this online presentation, workshop and all that, but once the presentation started, the presenters took the spotlight. So that was great to see. The Olympic analogy, it is an apt one because I'm in Richmond Field Station and staring at the space we all met a few years ago in person, an empty room right now, but just like those empty stadiums. But once the presentation started, it felt more like the researchers workshop that we are used to it. Today, we have, again, another good lineup of presentations, 11 presentations, 3 committee updates, and 2 workshop wrap-ups or summaries from the workshop organizers. So it shapes up to be a good day. We talked about the TSRP program and the newly funded projects from last year. One exciting thing about the recent awardees is vast majority of them are first-time PIs with peer. They are no strangers to peer, some as students in the past, but this is the first time they've PIs on a peer-funded project. So we want to welcome them all to the peer community and want to go over a little bit about the support peer provides to the projects. Peer's mission is to develop, validate, and disseminate PBEE technologies and tools. The researchers do the developing and validating. This researchers workshop is a bit more of validating and cross-pollination between projects and ideas. And dissemination is where peer really can help you. I want to introduce peer staff. After you receive Holland's peer director's letter about getting an award, first person you hear from is Zulema, asking for your SPO contact information and fund transfer and all that. Subsequently, you hear from Grace Kang at Peer Communications, asking for a project highlight or the proposed research description. What are you going to do? And that is a 2-page summary that we publicize in our peer news digest. And behind that, there's communications team, Erica Donald, our electronic communication specialist, Gabriel Vargas, who is our database manager, Christina, who helps us with the website and some of the sub awards, and as well as our librarian. They all work behind scenes to put out your work in our MailChimp or on the website. Then finally, we have Claire Johnson, our technical editor. She edits the peer reports and publishes them. So this is the whole peer team working behind scenes to support your projects. And I want to talk a bit about newsletter. So the project highlight or the initial project summary or the proposed research description. This is the first one of your peer project, and then the peer report. These two kind of bookend your peer project. Between them, you have 1 or 2 researchers workshops, a peer annual meeting or 2, and possibly some TSRP meetings if they are needed. So the initial one, it's really important to kick off a 2-page summary of what you're planning to do. And the peer report is a really a nice way to summarize all your work in great detail. So I'll talk about that in just a minute. So why is this important, putting this in peer newsletter? We reach about 3,000 plus people through the peer newsletter, and we send it once in 2 weeks. This is the best way to get information about peer. If you're not already subscribed, please go to our website and subscribe. We used in the past 12 years or so, first 8, 9 years, we were adding about 150 to 200 people per year. And then in 2018, we had a lot of activities, the annual meeting, the researchers workshop in person. We revamped our website. We had this blind prediction as well as the photo recognition contests. So we did all those, and leading up to the next peer annual meeting. But I think what changed the slope, the number of subscriptions from about 150 to 500, is adding multiple subscribe buttons on our webpage, all the most popular landing pages. And then we saw this sustained addition of about 500 or so new subscribers every year. And that has persisted through the pandemic, so that we were very pleased to see that. So it's a great way to reach about 300 or so mailboxes with your research, what you're planning to do, as well as what once you complete. So that is what we can provide. And then talking about reports, um, reports um, TSRP projects in 2017, we had about 17 projects. Of those, just 6 reports came out. And I want to emphasize here, you have your publications, journal papers, that is all good, but you have to synthesize everything into 15 pages, condense it, and give a smaller version to the community out there. Peer reports complement those journal papers. You can get into a lot more detail, and you can provide appendices of all your test data or your analysis work, a lot more detailed. And it's a nice capping off of your project, doing a peer report. It is a requirement of the TSRP project, but the past projects, it has not quite been that good, the compliance. Going forward, we do want to see the total number of projects kind of reflected in total number of reports. So we'll be pursuing that as we get through. I talked about peer team. Zulema Lara, our sub-awards coordinator, she has 100% response rate. She sends funding information, PIs immediately respond. Others, when we try the research highlight or try to get you on different things, reports, the compliance is not that much. We would like to bring that up to 100%. So please look for emails from peer headquarters, and please respond to us regarding your project highlights or your reports, and requesting completing those. Now I want to talk a little bit about the TSRP overall program, the Transportation Systems Research Program. It's funded by State of California. The State of California gives peer $1 million per year, and we are like the custodian and have to distribute that through any planned request for proposal or some other coordinated research plans to the 11 core institutions of peer. What has happened in the past 5 years, I just want, there are a lot of numbers here, but I'll go over a few of these. Khalid Mosallam started as peer director in 2016. There were several continuing projects. So 2016, there was no RFP, and part of 2017 as well, just to complete those projects. From 2017 fall, we started this request for proposal process. And what you see is the first couple of years, we gave about $1.5 million to peer research, then 1.2. And then you might have noticed last year there was a limit of $50,000 per project and limited to 1 year. The reason for that is the past 3 years had taken up most of the money, and we had to adjust that. But nevertheless, looking at the numbers, 65 projects or 54 from the time we started the RFP, and about 6 million funded projects. And the most important thing I want to stress is peer projects have higher success rate than any other funding source you have out there. About 1 in 3 projects are funded. So that is a great statistic we have. Looking across the thrust areas, we have geotechnical, structural, PBE tools, and methodology applications, and so on. And I have another plot that shows a little bit. So these 5 categories are divided into subtopics that you see in the RFP. And the number of circles shows how many proposals we received, and the green filled circles, bubbles, are the funded projects, and the size of the bubble is amount of funding sought. So you can see there is a wide range of things. The nonlinear elements and soil structure interaction, there are lots of proposals as well as a lot of funded projects. And then we have new bridge systems, and those are some of the other popular areas. I do want to stress that the geotechnical ones, maybe they are somewhat underrepresented here, because PIA had a very strong geotechnical program through the NGA projects as well as lifelines. So they are not included in the TSRP. When you combine those, it is quite a robust geotechnical as well as structural methodology tools, all and areas of application research represented. Looking across the institutions, all 11 institutions participate in the research quite a bit, some more than other. It is a reflection of the size of the earthquake engineering part in the department. And just looking at those numbers again in a different way, you can see the blue ones are the solicitations, and then the orange ones are funded projects. So looking at this, along with the research committee, we are trying to see the gaps and how we fill those gaps in the upcoming or new RFPs. And here we looked at, there are different ways to slice and dice these. We would love some input from peer researchers out there about how we can do this. But we looked at the 5 categories: geotechnical, structural, methodology, tools, and application. And we looked at the scale of projects from micro scale to material level to component and structural, network and regional scale, and put these bubbles where they belong. And then we start seeing some gaps or some concentration of bubbles. For example, at structural level has a lot of projects, and there are some empty boxes, and these we want to address in the upcoming RFPs. Okay. Again, we have a lot of numbers here. We will put them on the website or in a report soon, but basically looking at different ways of looking at this data. Most of our work is earthquake, earthquake engineering research centers, and then the tsunami, fire, they are also tied to earthquakes. Then a couple of noteworthy points are computational stuff. It outnumbers all other things, theoretical, experimental, database, AI stuff combined. And the last category there, I just want to stress that the AI and machine learning things, all these projects are just in the past couple of years. So this is the emerging field, if you were to say, with 7 projects in a couple of years. The PBEE equation, the triple integral, it has 4 parts: hazard, analysis, damage, and loss. If we look at that, the work done on analysis side, again, outnumbers either in the number of projects or the funding compared to other 3 parts put together. So that we will look to balance that a little bit. And then looking at other research gaps, uncertainty quantification is central to peer, and we see a lot of probabilistic things, but almost all of them are forward propagation of uncertainty. The backward propagation, there was just 1 project. So that's another gap that could be addressed. Looking at the infrastructure type, a lot on bridges. It is transportation program, so bridges, highways, a lot of work there. Tunnels and airports, we want to focus on that and address some gaps there and try to improve that. And similarly on scales, we have a lot at structural level, then a good sizable number at component. The other ones, we want to look at that. So this is a very broad summary of TSRP funded projects of the last 5 years. I have just a couple of more slides. Upcoming things, there is a blind prediction contest going on currently, opened last month. The deadline for questions is this week. So it is a quasi-static cyclic testing of an RC column. So the prior blind predictions, they had shake table tests and a lot of dynamic components. This one takes away all that and gets to the core of it. Can we predict the performance of a quasi-static cyclic test on a reinforced concrete column? This blind prediction, it actually came from industry. Joe Maffei of Maffei Structural, as well as Tipping Structural Engineers. Testing was done at Simpson Strong Tie. We are excited about this one because we think there will be a lot of participation. We have a couple of different categories for students, for practicing engineers, for researchers. So please look at this on our website, and we would love your participation in this blind prediction contest. I want to thank all peer sponsors and the business industry program participants. The State of California, Caltrans, for all the funding we receive to support all these projects, as well as BIP members who support our student activities. So I want to really thank them. And then I go back to this picture from a few years ago, where we had the researchers workshop out here. Hope to have that maybe next year. So have a great rest of the workshop, and I'm happy to answer questions at the end of the session. So thank you for joining the workshop.